mathematically challenged cisgender man, the term equal carried a very one-dimensional textbook meaning for me. It took up a very vague space in my head wherein I equated it with just mathematical connotations. This basically came from a privilege, and having realized that, it made me want to delve very deep into the true understanding of the term. Having been an extroverted teenager, the term different carried a terrifying undertone, as it was an era where being treated differently was desired by very few, and the concept of anonymity provided a solace. The true sense of being different, or how one-size-fits-all approach was so incorrect, was somewhere lost, till the dawn of the woke era, where different stood just as synonymous as special. Even then, there lingers an ambiguity in my head as to why these two terms are so paradoxical in nature. And having these two terms strung together to relay the crucial issue of women and the workplace is what intrigues me to no end. What intrigues me further still is a factoid I read in the Economic Times. It stated that in the last decade, the percentage of working women in India has dropped from 26% to a staggering 19%. Exactly why is this even happening? Where does the root of this issue lie? What steps are being taken for it? Should steps be taken for it? And if we call ourselves a progressive society, what do we need to do? All this and much more awaits you in today's session, where we will be discussing this book, Equal Yet Different, in a tete-a-tete with the author herself, Ms. Anita Bhogle. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mayank, and as your MC for today's run-up event, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the Vidarbha Literary Festival. Nagpur, the epicenter of India, has long since lived in a buzz of social, cultural, and political action. The last couple of years, though, have seen a new literary buzz going strong in our city. Courtesy of the Vidarbha Literary Fest, everyone has now had access to eminent authors, their vision, what drives them, their process, and their words. Along with this amuse-bouche comes the main course of a wide foray of topics, ranging from culinary delights to historical events, an eye on the future along with ties of the past, and even the voice of the needs of young India. These sessions and the words inspiring them is what brings me and you back here every month for more. There is truly no end to learning. And for that learner in each and every one of you, dear readers of Nagpur, please give yourselves a huge round of applause. Today, we feel proud to introduce to you another talent from Vidarbha, Mr. Shreyas Bhave. Shreyas, a history buff by choice and an electrical engineer by degree, has wonderfully managed to metamorph his interest into a series of books based on the folklore surrounding the Emperor Ashoka. The Ashoka trilogy has gained widespread acclaim and has even been required for screen adaptation. He is here to familiarize us with his upcoming book titled Raiders of Surat. It is the first in the trilogy based on the thrilling adventures of Chhatrapati Shivaji's greatest spy, Bahirji Naik. Ladies and gentlemen, let's extend a warm welcome to Shreyas Bhave.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here today and giving me a chance to tell my story to all of you. So basically, I stand before all of you today as the author of historical fiction and also an engineer. A few days ago, we celebrated Engineers Day. And there is a famous quote of Albert Einstein about Engineers Day. Einstein once said that scientists discover what already is, while engineers create what has never been. I personally feel that as a writer of historical fiction, this same difference is what is present between those who write non-fiction about history and those who write fiction about history. Good fiction, we can say. So the question arises that what is good historical fiction? So good historical fiction is that fiction in which the author takes the facts about history, which he gets from reading about the primary sources, people who experienced those events themselves, and then they wrote about it. And from their stories, the writer gets a clear picture of what happened. He gets the facts, and then he keeps the facts as it is in his story. And in between those facts, he views his magic, he views his fiction. That is what good historical fiction is. Because when a writer of good historical fiction sits in front of an actual historian, the historian can never challenge him, because the facts which the historian knows are as it is, and what happened between those facts, even the historian does not know. So, in this spirit, I have written historical fiction. I have written 5 books until now, and I basically feel that if we had a time machine and if we could go into the past, what actually happened, that would match with the story of a historical fiction writer than that of a non-fiction writer. So, I have written about Samrat Ashok and the Mauryan Empire, and I have tried to answer the question: how did Samrat Ashoka, a man who had fought more than 100 battles, just become changed by fighting a 101st battle? What exactly happened in the Kalinga war? That is what I have tried to answer in Ashoka trilogy. I have written about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's mysterious death, and I have tried to answer the question: what exactly happened to him? What exactly happened in the plane crash? What was the true story? And I have tried to put another parallel theory in parallel with those already prevalent in the world. My latest book is about the sack of Surat, carried out by Raja Shivaji in 1664. I personally find the event of sack of Surat very interesting. We never have parallels of this event in the entire world history, because such an event has never occurred in the faces of the earth except Surat. See, Surat was a very rich city. It was located miles away inside enemy territory, and when the sack of Surat happened, at that time the Maratha Empire was at its weakest. Shaiste Khan was occupying Pune. The Adil Shahi had damaged the border areas, and there were a lot of financial troubles also at that time in the Maratha Empire. So at this juncture, how did Shivaji Raje inspire his soldiers? How did he take them to Surat? And how did he sack the Surat so efficiently in a span of just 4 days, when there were no computers, when there was no internet, and there was no technology of any kind? So the answer to this is his efficient spying team. And there is this famous character in history, Bahirji Naik. If we go from a historian's point of view, Bahirji Naik does not exist, because there is no historical proof of his existence. But basically, we can say that Bahirji Naik is a legend, and there is no word better to a writer than a legend. So I have written a tale about Bahirji Naik, and I have split his persona into 2. So I have made one fictional spy into 2. Because he was fictional, I can always split him into 2 people. So I have put him into 2 people, Bahirji Bandal, Sadashiv Naik. They go to Surat, they study the city, and they lay down the plan of how the sack should take place. And that is the story, and it will be the first story in a set of 3 books. So the first book has come out, the second book will be coming out in December, and the third book will be coming out next year. So if you are fans of the Maratha Empire, I implore you to read it. I think that you will find it very exciting. You'll get to know about the true story of Surat, what exactly happened in 1664. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shreyas. Wow, that was actually very well and very succinctly put forth by you. Thank you for presenting your book to us, and we wish you the best of luck. Readers, if you can definitely buy this book outside, and you can support our local Vidarbha talent that way, and also get to know really amazing facts and, as you put it, fiction about the great emperor and his spy team. Moving forward, our moderator for today, Ms. Poonam Khandelwal, is an angel investor, a mentor, and an enabler for startups. The market head at Venture Catalysts, she's a chartered accountant by degree and is passionate about helping entrepreneurial India find solid, sturdy footing. She has been engrossed in raising funds for $130 million accelerator for 9 unicorns and $120 million for Beam FinTech Growth Fund. With an expanse of 45 plus Indian cities and expanding to Dubai, Singapore, and the US, she has raised over $100 million through a partner network. She is a dedicated professional and an amazing mother. But before I welcome her on the stage, allow me to introduce to you our author for today's event, Ms. Anita Bhogle. An IITB and an IIMA alumnus, she has always been fascinated by market, strategies, and research. Prior to being a partner at ProSearch Consultants, she was the Director of Account Planning and Research at FCB Ulka. She is also the Director for Content at Bits Pandit, India's first digital learning content library for managers. Anita has also co-authored a book with her husband, Harsha Bhogle, called The Winning Way. The Winning Way, as a lecture series, has received over 400 invitations from over 200 companies that make up the creme de la creme of corporate India. The Winning Way, Learnings from Sport for Managers, has also emerged as a bestseller with translations in 3 different languages. I could go on and on citing accomplishments and feathers in caps, but you certainly aren't here to just to listen to me, right? So without taking too much of your time, I would like to invite Poonam to escort our author on stage, and let's welcome them with an immense round of applause.
We have to be a great audience and ask as many questions as we can. We'll try to keep it as candid as possible, ma'am, because it's always a privilege to have somebody from the tier 1 ecosystem along with IIT, IIM background and everybody coming and talking to us. I am very delighted to host this session because I represent working women. I am a mother. There are challenges which I face. I was reading this book, and trust me, this book, the good thing about it is we have a mix of crowd. We have a lot of men sitting in the room. So I believe this book is written for you. I read it, I could correlate. It's like somebody is writing for me, the problems I face, right from maid to husband to in-laws to puja part and everything you can think of. So that was interesting about the book. But before we get into the book, ma'am, I would like to know about your childhood, because I believe the way we are raised, that defines what we will be in future. So I want to really know, because this is not something on YouTube, and I want us to be the first one to know about your relationship with your parents, siblings, and in general at school life.
So we were a very normal family. My father was in the IPS, and my mother was a homemaker, and we were like 2 daughters. And my parents were very hardworking. Actually, both my parents grew up in villages. And so, catching up with everything, plus an elite service, it took them quite an effort. And I always remember them as very hardworking. And my mother especially is very efficient. She lives next to me now and still is a more efficient homemaker compared to me. She still, gets into the saddle when I'm traveling, even at 89. So that's my memory of, growing up. But because my father was in the government service, it was a very sheltered kind of a life with 2 daughters. And, given my age, things are so much, freer now for girls. And I really envy today's girls for the freedom that they get. It's not like we were not free, but still, it was a very sheltered kind of a life. Also, being in the government service, my father had absolutely no exposure to the private sector. So all the decisions that I took, I didn't opt for medicine or engineering, though I could have. My love for maths, sorry. Threw me in a direction that, I just wanted to do that, and I pursued statistics. So it was all my own effort because they really were not in a position to guide me in any way. And like most parents of that generation, I think they were supportive, but not very ambitious. So, you could do a post-graduation and then get married and be happy. So nice if you did, okay if you didn't, that kind of thing. So I think they were suddenly hit by a child who was not only doing well, but wanted to do so much more. But having said that, once I kind of decided what I wanted to do, they were very, very supportive. So childhood was fairly normal in that sense.
Great, great. Good to know that. But in your book, you've written about women being discriminated at different stages of their career. I want to know one example where you felt that discrimination at workplace. One example which hits you hard.
To be honest, nobody discriminated against me. Okay. And I got married fairly early. And so my working life and my married life were almost running parallel. Married life actually did put some restrictions, but not because I didn't have the freedom to do things. Basically, I didn't have any support in the city. So neither my parents, nor in-laws, nor siblings, nobody was in the city to kind of, support my career, and so I had to only depend on paid help. And the other thing is that my husband got a chance, which was like really a chance in a million, to pursue his dream, and so we decided as a family that, you know, he would do it. I had hoped that if I got a chance like that, you know, it would be reciprocated. But one in a million kind of a chance doesn't hit one family twice. So, so there was no looking back for him. Having said that, I don't think I've done badly, kind of made the most of whatever was there. But I remember when I was working, because I was like a single parent at most times, there were many things I had to miss, and there were many things I couldn't do. So, for example, I couldn't travel. So I was head of a department, and our ad agency had 7 offices, but, you know, I couldn't travel. I couldn't work very late hours, because when the children are young, you can't, I wasn't very comfortable leaving them alone or with help for a long time. I couldn't attend lots of training workshops and things like that. So those kind of restrictions were there, and definitely the career got compromised. But like I've written in the book, you know, there's a philosophy that we follow. And personally, it's worked for me, and I think it works for everybody, which, you know, it says that don't let what you cannot do come in the way of what you can do. And so I told myself, I cannot work late, I cannot travel, I cannot work full time, but I can certainly work from home. Yeah. And I can be on my own, and I can do things. And this was at a time where, you know, working from home was not even in anybody's dictionary. Yeah. And so just set up office at home with a fax machine and a computer that you had to kind of, you know, wait for till all the beeping ended and things like that. But that's how we started. And that's how I kind of was on my own. So I never let that come in the way, because there's always something you can do.
Interesting, because yeah, we all know we have challenges, men do have. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we work around our life with those challenges. So that's interesting. The way I read your book, the bottom line of the book, after reading the book, is simple, that in future, we don't want to be called as female leaders. We just want to be called as leaders, you know?
Yeah.
Because till an extent, we can work without, you know, certain things. But once we are at the leadership position, stop calling us female, male. We are just leaders. So that's one thing which is a takeaway of the book. But then the book is divided in so many chapters which we can relate to. So deep diving in your book,
Yeah.
there's one chapter which I found very interesting, which is investing in yourself, and which we all can relate very easily, because we stop investing in ourselves. Okay, we do certain course, and then that's it. You know, we're happy with our job. So there was a Facebook CEO, she mentioned that I want every little girl who's told that she's bossy to be said instead that she has leadership skills. And that in one of your chapter, which is chapters on investing yourself, it speaks, and I want you to, it speaks like this, and I want you to further deep dive into it. Women have softer voice, and when they try to speak louder or more passionately, they can sound shrill and agitated. And that's why we are called as overthinker, over-emotional. And I, as a person, I have this habit myself. I get overexcited, you know, and I raise my voice. I'm not trying to raise my voice, maybe I'm just trying to speak. But as women, as men, it's okay, yaar, boss hai, thoda bahut to bolenga, chalta hai. But as women, no, it's agitation. Yeah. I want you to throw some light on that particular point, because we face that.
See, the whole idea in being different has been talked about, because, you know, women are in a minority, and therefore the scrutiny is so much more. And any minority in any society always gets that kind of scrutiny. The other thing is that the default leadership model is male, which means that, like, you know, you close your eyes and say carpenter or driver, it's a male who comes to mind. Similarly, when you say leader, the whole personality that comes to mind is male, authoritative, you know, loud, confident, even arrogant at times, somebody that everybody's listening to. That is the imagery that is there. Now, unfortunately, because we don't have enough women, we have not made a significant dent into that kind of a model. It will happen when the numbers happen, right? And so this whole thing about, shrillness or emotion, now what's wrong with it, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But because we are in a minority, things stand out. And they don't fit into this model of being a leader. And that is why the whole struggle is there. Also, women leaders have typically struggled with leadership styles. I think for either individuals or collectively as a group. But that is how it started. And now we come a full circle where we're saying, being different is great because diversity is really, what we're looking for in a team. So that is why this whole thing about, behaviors that are different kind of stand out.
Understood. So you mean to say that these behavior as such, if there were enough women at the leadership position, this would have not been noticed. It would have been, this is how it is.
Yeah, it is, right? So, and then there are labels that are attached. So women are not confident, or women are not, they don't speak up, and, things like that. And also women have been brought up saying, earlier they used to say, young women must be seen and not heard. So you shouldn't talk about yourself, you shouldn't be loud, you should, all these patriarchal things are also there. That mindset is there that, women must be shy. Now, imagine in today's world, shyness is not a virtue, right? So everybody wants to make a pitch. Even when you're talking to somebody, you're actually, you're telling them about yourself and your work and things like that. Now, these kind of humility, shyness and things have no place in today's society. So that is what the struggle is about. If you want to be authentic, then you got to just be yourself, whether it suits other people or not. But then you stand out.
Understood. So that's interesting. That's why we need more of us at the leadership position so that we make it a normal to be emotional, maybe. So there's this chapter 2, which talks about dream aloud. Frankly speaking, I have a lot of two thoughts around one of the statement which has been made. Becoming a trailing spouse without actively considering the impact it has on your career can be disastrous. But then when you are a couple, you need to make such choices, As women, we've always been trailing spouses, which is, it's just a given rule.
It is expected.
It is, yeah.
That the woman will follow the man,
yes.
Right? But today's careers come with a lot of rewards and a lot of responsibility as well. So if you're kind of jeopardizing your whole career, I'm not saying don't go. I'm just saying that the men must kind of think about it when they accept a transfer or another job, that what does it mean, for the wife's career. And a lot of careers actually get aborted because men make decisions which do not include the woman, especially when people travel abroad. It's not very easy to get a visa, for example, that allows the other person to work. Or you might go into some kind of an environment where your wife's capabilities or qualifications and all don't count at all. Then what happens? Right? So just to be fair to the wife, I think these considerations need to be done. Now, of course, you do find some men also following the women. I'm just saying that every opportunity that the family gets, that the couple gets, must be evaluated equally. And every time it cannot be money that is the consideration, because if the man is older and the woman then he already has a kind of a head start. And then the woman, if she has children, then she falls behind. So if she falls behind like that, then every time, if money is the only consideration, the man is always going to win, right? Every decision is going to be in favor of the man. Like I said, at that stage, I expected that sometime this would be reciprocated. But sometimes it doesn't happen.
That's a very fair point. I believe as women, we demand for wrong things, but we end up not demanding for the right things.
No, women are also very demanding. One thing the book is not about is male bashing.
Yes.
Because I think men are just as much victims of conditioning as
Yes,
women are. And like women have, privileges as well as, limitations. Men too have that. Both have this.
I'll be touching on the point of privileges because that's one thing also I want to
Yeah.
discuss. Also we talk about diversity, we talk about inclusiveness, equity, but then again, the moment I think of remembering few names at the leadership position, it's Indra Nooyi or Sudha Murthy ji. Only few names come to my mind, exceptionally 15, 20 of them maybe. So we're still underrepresented.
Of course.
We are just, the statistics as per the Google and as per your book also says that only 17% of the women hold the board seat. And that too after because of the company law. Trust me, it's only a formality, okay? So I don't think so they're working, it's just as per the law. And also the CEO position of a company is around 5%, which is again
Absolutely.
very less. And I belong to the industry startup again where the representation is very less. I was listening to a podcast about this amazing young founder of 10 Club, and she was asked during the funding, what if you get pregnant? That was what she was asked when she was raising $40 million.
Yeah.
And she said, if I can make a company, I can figure out a plan, what I will do of this baby. I have 9 months, I have enough time. I'll definitely plan out something. But then why there is diversity when the government is in favor, the men are no more stopping us. I don't think so. We belong to a society where men are any more stopping us. Everything is in favor. What's stopping the women?
Mindset. Mindset. Because compliance and diversity targets and things can take you only that far. Okay? Let me ask something, the women here. Do you know other women or maybe yourself who have been asked, why do you need to work? Yeah? मैं अच्छा खासा कमाता हूँ, हाँ? बच्चों को कौन देखेगा? All these kind of things, they come from a mindset where it is the man who's earning money for the family and the woman is earning only for herself. Meaning you look after the house and the family and everything, and after that, if you think you have the time and whatever, then you work. But this remains your responsibility. You look at it that way. I mean, so many women stop working. And there is no stigma to that at all. There is nobody who kind of regrets the fact that, a career has been aborted. But you see, if a marriage is terminated, how much stigma there is, which means that, whatever you might do in your career, however much you might earn, that, marriage is first. And all the adjustment, it's okay. Finally, there are relationships and a family has to be held together, but all the compromises have to be made by the woman. Which is why women throw in the towel the moment there is a work-life balance issue, the moment there is pressure. But like I said, every career now comes with responsibility, and there is going to be pressure. The slightest pressure, if you're going to, throw in the towel because somebody says, why do you need to work, and this and that. So there is an inner voice and there's an outer voice. Both are working against the woman, saying, why do you need to do this? Why do you need to do that? Which is why we need enablers, allies, people who tell you that, this is temporary. This pressure business is temporary. Don't worry. It'll be okay. Or people who will support, whether it is parents or somebody else, and then the infrastructure, Because unless you are assured that the home and the children and the elders in the family are taken care of, you cannot focus on your career. That's the truth, right? Because that's her responsibility, at least so far. And that is today's reality. So till that is taken care of, you can't focus on the career.
So, just diverting a little bit from what I thought I'll be talking, but is it the women thinking that I can't have it all? Is it our problem? Or is it the society's problem? Or is it the family's problem?
Everybody's, because, we have different takeaways from the same kind of mindsets. The women also feel entitled, right? At the end of the day, like I said, there's no stigma. If the woman says, no, I can't handle this and I'm going to stay at home, there is no stigma. A man can't do that. Whether he is abused by the boss in the office, whether he likes his work or not, he has to go and work. Right? So women are also taking advantage of this kind of a thing. And you see so many rich wives who are sitting back and just throwing away their qualifications. and saying, okay, fine, like, what can I do? So, which is why I'm saying that if we want more women to be in leadership positions, they've got to hang on. Everybody has to support them. They have to show career intentionality. Saying, I'm capable of this. I would like to give it a shot. I would like to, contribute to organizations or society or whatever it is.
Yeah, this one was good. Yeah. So, somewhere you've written that the three categories, ambitious and who say they are ambitious, they broadcast it. And then there are ambitious and they do not want to broadcast it for the fear. Many a times people look at my Insta status, I travel so much. So they tell me, Poonam is very ambitious. And I'm like,
Have
no,
they
no,
not
no,
asked
I'm
you?
not ambitious. I'll always take it back, frankly, ma'am.
Have they asked you whether you're a good mother or not?
I'm assuming they assume. There's a lot of presumption in this society. But to coming back on the point, because these are few topics which men also need to understand the guilt we go through. I don't want to name anybody, but I was with a lady who was almost managing a $2 billion family business, very established, and I was with her, so I told her I'm reading. And we were discussing generally because I wanted to know her viewpoint also. So I told her that I missed my daughter's 5th birthday because I was working. And I think that when she grows up, she'll also be a working woman like me. And immediately she told me, maybe not. Maybe she'll be saying, I'll never be a working mother because my mother was not available for me on my birthday. So that immediately puts you in guilt. How do you handle such guilt?
How do you handle guilt?
Yeah, because or as a society, we need to stop saying such powerful statement because you say, I go home with such statements in my mind. So my ambition, my broadcasting, everything goes for a toss.
Yeah. So let me tell you a few things about guilt. Okay? Only women suffer from guilt.
Yeah, correct.
Okay? And all women suffer from guilt. So it doesn't have to do with whether you're married or not, you have children or not, you're working or not, whether you're successful or not. Everybody goes through some kind of guilt or the other. The other thing is it's a very useless emotion. So we waste too much time and energy on this guilt. So guilt just has to be managed. The root of guilt, I think, again, is in patriarchal mindsets. Okay, so the mindset there is, if you are paying attention to work, you must be a terrible mother or you must be a terrible homemaker because you don't have time. Okay, and if you are at home, then you are doing a great job. Which is why, like I said, if a woman quits her job, then it's a very selfless act. I'm doing it for the family. So that is the origin of guilt. And traditionally also, I think women, being in the roles that they were supposed to please everybody, right? Keep everybody happy and, things like that. Which is why women are so hard on themselves. If something goes wrong, they get very upset. They want a perfect home. They want perfect children. They want perfect careers, everything. And perfection not possible at all times. Which is why several times in the book I have said, you must have a thick skin. Because something or the other will go wrong. And it's not worth, feeling guilty about. You try your best to make all the arrangements, but at the end of the day, something or the other can go wrong. And it's okay to go wrong. So what? Right? So you must have a thick skin, and society has a way of making women feel guilty.
So that's one thing.
Your own children can also make you feel guilty.
Yes,
Somebody's mother came for something, somebody threw a better birthday party, somebody gave something or the other, you didn't come, you didn't do. So children, colleagues, everybody can make you feel guilty. When women go back from maternity leave, a lot of people make them feel very inadequate. Are itne chote bacche ko you've left and come, or how can you focus on your work, or you're not doing this properly. It's a very emotional time for a woman. A child is going to fall a little ill, Sometimes you have not slept well. It is difficult. And if at work also you're made to feel like that, then it's it's very difficult. And that's why maternity and motherhood are the prime reasons why women opt out of careers.
But that's a key takeaway. It's sad. The most beautiful thing in your life, if that is holding you back to do the best, I believe motherhood makes you more powerful and makes you think you're capable of doing 100 things. But then the way society pulls you down,
Yeah.
it's sad. So through this crowd,
No,
because-
even organizations don't appreciate those skills. Like, everybody says when you have children, you become such a great multitasker. But no organization is saying, wow, I want this candidate, she must be a great multitasker. No.
Yes, yes. Eh, So there's so many things going on in my mind as we speak. So how many of you are working women here? I
Nice.
believe a lot of them.
Women working, all those are different issues. But I think overall, the needle has moved. I think we.
Yes, a lot of things have changed. Like LIC के ad से लेके गाड़ी के ad तक, why can't women have all the fun? So a lot of things have changed even in tier 2 city, where we belong. We have a different mindset. You are typically from tier 1. So, and there are different challenges in our city. We're closely knit, we know each other, the work culture. A lot of things are missing as compared to what you see. So, investing in yourself, which is my favorite topic from the book, that you need to keep upgrading yourself. But to upgrade yourself, you need to do a lot of networking opportunities. So, what do you suggest that as a woman or as a woman from tier 2 as well, how do we get exposure in such
Yeah, so typically
Network.
and traditionally, men networked over smoke, drink, and sport, right? And if women were not interested in any of these are like 3 crosses. But look at today's situation, for example. It is a networking opportunity, isn't it? And it's outside of all those opportunities. So you have to create other opportunities. You must try and fit into some of these things. So there's nothing stopping women from learning about sport. You don't have to play it also. Just follow the sport so that you don't feel totally clueless in a discussion. So try and fit in because we're still the minority. So we have to kind of make more adjustments than the men. So some steps like that by women and create other opportunities. Luckily, organizations are getting sensitive to this fact that, staying late, for example, is not an inclusive policy, like going for a drink after work is not an inclusive policy. So they're trying to make adjustments, but not everybody. We need more organizations to think like that. So definitely, but these are things that come in the way. So negotiating, even within the office, for example, because organizations now are becoming bigger and global, you need to know who is important in the office, who will be able to push your ideas forward. How do you stake a claim? Women hardly ever say, why am I not on this project? I think I'm best qualified for this. I should be on this. I should get this promotion. Why am I being paid less? Women don't say things like that. So that is kind of limiting behavior apart from networking. You can go to conferences, you can network over there. You should not cherry pick roles, like saying, I'll do all the easy assignments. I'll do HR, I won't do finance or sales because that's more difficult. And even parents advise daughters, saying, I was doing this Twitter Spaces conversation, and at the end of it, this woman asked me, and a girl from Mumbai, she said, I would like to do finance, but my parents are saying, फिर अच्छा qualified लड़का नहीं मिलेगा to get married. What do you think I should do? I said, pursue your dream, because that will always remain yours. Then you find somebody who will, kind of be the right kind of a guy. Because tomorrow if that guy leaves you, you're left with neither qualification or nothing at all. And that is today's reality, isn't it? So you pursue your dream, that is yours. Find somebody who will kind of, be the right kind of person. Because at the end of the day, the husband is the biggest hurdle or the biggest enabler, whichever way it is. It's the biggest decision of your life, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a crazy thing, when I keep going back to the interview of Sania, and being the bestest, athlete of the world, she was asked, when are you settling down? And that's kind of questions we should stop asking women.
No, and
As a
I
society,
ask,
we should stop asking
you know,
women.
I've given so many talks to companies, and typically, the employees are very young. So I asked the guy, what do you mean by settling down when your parents say, hamara beta abhi settle nahi hua? So what does it mean? So he says, that means he doesn't have a great job, he hasn't finished his education, or he hasn't bought his own house. And then I asked the girls, when people say, he settled kyun nahi hui, what does this mean? It means she's not married, right? Everybody knows that. So these are mindsets that are there. And slowly these need to kind of change, because all of us need to see, what is the kind of mindset that we are carrying, and whether it's a privileged one or not.
Understood. Talking about privileges, what are the top 2 privileges you think that we have over men?
Women?
Yeah, and which they can put to use in the right manner. Top 2.
Top 2 privileges that women have. Like I said, I wouldn't say it's a privilege, but strangely in a woman's mind, she is a secondary breadwinner. Okay, so she can quit, like I said. If you don't like something, you don't have to think twice, you can quit. A man has to think a lot more. So to that extent, she's better off than him. So I wouldn't call it a privilege, but I think it is an advantage that women have. Not the privilege that women have.
God, you're
Can't
taking
think of
so
too
much
many.
time.
Can't
we
think
should
of too many.
We need to reverse the question. The privileges men have.
Yes, a lot of privileges, a lot of privileges. Just being a man is a privilege, I think.
But I do think when I go to Bombay, I want to meet people. Being a woman, it is easier for me to get that first meeting. It's easier for me where the other guys in my office chase 10 times. Yeah. I'm able to maybe make it in a 1 or 2 times. I'm able to get that meeting. So do you agree with that? Yes. After that, obviously, it's my knowledge, my expertise that helps.
Yeah, so that came to mind because women invariably get the safer markets if you are in sales. They don't get a factory posting, for example, if you are in manufacturing or pharma or things like that. But I wouldn't say it's a privilege, because you don't do it now, you don't qualify for leadership.
Anytime.
So at this point in time, you feel, oh, it's more manageable, and it's a comfortable posting and things like that. But it doesn't work out in the long term. That's why I don't call it a privilege.
So, okay, so I'll change my vocab from here now, maybe just a position that we hold.
Yeah.
Because it's a very, one last thing which I want to ask is, there are women in the room, there are men in the room,
Yeah.
We would like to understand if somebody wants to restart their career,
Okay.
if they've taken a pause for XYZ reason, which is okay, that's your personal choice, you can take break. But if somebody wants to restart their career, obviously there are a lot of bottlenecks. There's a feeling of being left behind,
Yeah.
which we face. So what will be your 2 pieces of advice or your personal experience with, communicating with so many of us around?
Sure. I think there are opportunities. But all opportunities come with a caveat. So in this case, if you've had a break, then you have to remember 2 things. One is that you could have fallen behind in terms of your skills. Yeah, because especially now, in every field you need to learn new technology, new skills, new things. And so you have to be ready to learn all those. So that's the first thing. The second is that your confidence also takes a beating if you spend time at home away from work. And that is something you need to work on. A lot of people get that skills bit. This course I've done, that whatever I've done, whatever. But confidence is also something that you kind of need to work on. I'm not saying that the learning mindset is easy to come by. Even that is difficult, because we got used to a comfortable, life at home. And a lot of people don't go back for that very reason, that, they are far too comfortable. But if you have to, then you have to do the skills and you have to do this. And again, even then you need a thick skin. Because when you go back, you might be reporting to people who are younger than you. You might be, earning less than or just about the same as when you left off. Or it might even be less. So these are things that you should be mentally prepared for. But, if you have another 15, 20 years to go, you can always catch up. So you have to be ready for that. But it's never too late to start. Let me tell you, I had a startup at 50.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a startup at 50. I learned to play the keyboard at 47.
Yeah, it's written everywhere.
Yeah.
The keyboard, a new keyboard
Yeah.
enthusiast. You're just exploring it. That's a good thing.
It's not. I'm 61 today. So
Oh,
from
oh God.
47 to 61, I've already put in so many
God, you
years.
don't look like
Now, which is why I'm
61.
saying it's never too late. So I already have some degree of proficiency because although it seems like I started at 47, today I have played for so many years.
Wow, I mean, you don't look 61. I'll just make it a point.
Thank you.
Many times I've realized women tell their true age when they know that nobody's guessing it right.
You're beyond all that now. How does it matter?
Interesting one. So what next are you thinking? Because after reading this book, though this book has a lot of action points, at the end of every chapter, but do you think there's a need of I'm asking as a personal question, if you intend to do something like a structured learning program for women to deal at different situations at workplace, do you intend to do something of that sort?
Yeah, I think all that is required is some amount of sensitization, because a lot of the bias is unconscious. It's not like anybody's bad and out of, malintent somebody is doing that. Like I said, everybody is a victim of conditioning. So many people have said, I didn't even realize that this is how I was. My own husband said to me, I thought I'm a feminist. His mother works, the sister works, and they're all like very qualified professionals. And yet he realized that he wasn't really doing enough at home. And when I wrote so many stories and he saw it from my point of view, he said, oh, I didn't realize. And there's this term called mentally feminist, which means that, people who say all the right things, but don't do enough. And it's not only men who are mentally feminist. Even women are. Like for example, my mother would say, oh, I'm a feminist and whatever, but she expects me to do all the work at home, not my husband. So like Indra Nooyi's Leave the Crown Behind in the Garage, there are many versions of that, right? You are expected to do all, which means that people are mentally feminist, men, women, everybody.
I like
and
the term.
ourselves as well.
Yeah, we also. I believe we are more than the men are, I believe at times. Any questions from the crowd? We can take some quick questions.
Great conversation, and we were looking for a quite fiery feminist conversation, but it was quite interesting and more about sensitizing and not flag.
Not activism. Yeah, absolutely. I think activism just creates a pushback.
Yeah.
Whereas
no
I don't
male
think that is
bashing
really
happening.
required.
Yeah, that's the real great takeaway from this, that we should now be more sensitizing than going up with placards. But I just wanted to ask, there's so much sports happening around you, and that you're an entrepreneur. So where does both the world coincide? What do you learn from sports that we can inculcate in business?
Sports is really as much about the mind as it is about the body. Everybody goes into training and things like that. But a lot of times, the most practiced athletes also kind of falter on the big stage. So self-belief is something that has a lot of importance in sport, and it is also important in life. And typically, women are a little short on self-belief. They, you start doubting yourself. Can I do it? Am I up to it? And like I said, there's an inner voice and an outer voice as well. Because even people outside are saying, can she handle it? Because typically, when you get into senior positions also, a lot of women are not considered because they think, oh, these people are pushovers. They don't stand up and speak up and things like that. The average man looks more confident compared to the average woman. So self-belief is something that a woman must have. Everybody must have, but I'm just saying that women are a little short on that.
Ma'am, I had a question. I belong to an organization which has been following the matriarchal way for about 15 years now, because both the heads of the family, as the general norm says, the male heads have been deceased for some time now. So I have been following in the steps of women, and it's given me a great insight at what their underlying guilt is about. So as somebody who's sharing the workload inside the house and outside the house, I am doing my part in reducing the guilt. But what can we do to make sure that the kids, the upcoming generation, does not have that, the guilt thing come on to their mothers so much? Because in one example, my sister herself faces these issues from her kids. And they are the 21st century women, and we have been trying our best to sensitize them as much as possible. But still does not go away. What can we do as your allies, is what my question is.
I think, firstly, women must be very proud of the work they do. And they must speak about it at home. Not too many women do that. And we must make our children and our families as much part of our dreams as we are part of their dreams. So a woman is totally into her husband's career and very proud of his achievements, very proud of the children's achievements. Are children and the husband equally proud? They must also be proud. It's only then that that they will be part of your dream and they will support you. If they know that you love your work, you are contributing something good to the organization, you're being appreciated at work. People said all these nice things. I won this employee of the quarter award, or whatever things like that. Women must speak about this at home. I find a lot of women not doing that. I have mentioned in my book also 2 women who could not celebrate their success in the sense that they were earning more than their husbands. And they would quietly put their salary checks in the bank because they feared that it would rock the boat at home. And I thought it was a very sad story that they were not allowed to celebrate their success just because they were women. Right? A man's promotion, a man's bonus would have been celebrated at home. So, but I think if you do that and you share your dreams, then maybe they will, kind of respond. Absolutely. And make you feel less guilty. And they will know that, she is away because she is doing something important.
Yeah. Thank you.
More questions?
So my question is about, how most of us will connect. When it comes to women in family, all the family members are like very protective or overprotective. If girl is going out in a night, like you must go with her.
Correct.
So how I have seen a negative side of it happening in my own place. How it affects the mentality of a girl, because a lot of things in discussion came to a point that it's mindset. If somebody is taking a backseat in a career because that person feels that, somebody is doing it. So I have a younger sister, she got a driving license, but she never drives. And we were about to buy a car for her, and next day she was like, no, I want him to be with me. So it stops her from doing many things. Her choices are around that what time you are free.
So what's the if you can
So
come to
that's
the
the question. Being overprotective, like parents or siblings or husband. So how it affects?
No, because you're clipping her wings by making her feel that she can't do it on her own, that she needs help. If you see even old Hindi movies, it was like that. That she should see, she needs the prince, or even in a nursery rhyme, she needs the prince to come and save her. She is this lost babe in the woods. Right? So don't do that. Let her do whatever. Never mind if she makes mistakes.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you would love to discuss this issue at length after the session, so we can move on to other questions, please. Yeah.
Sure.
Hello. So, at the age of 16, when I was decided when I'm to take, arts. At the age of 16, when I was deciding to take arts, or when I expressed that I wanted to study literature, my father sat me down and he was like, I don't know if when you get married, you will be allowed to work as a journalist or not. So why not do like a BBA, MBA thing? So at least you can work in the family business. So at 16, my father's thinking was going to happen 10 years later, depending what my in-laws will maybe or maybe not allow me to do.
Yeah.
So how do you go around that? You know, like it's always about the
First of all-
permission.
yeah. First of all, you shouldn't be marrying somebody who's allowing you to do something.
Exactly. I mean,
Shouldn't
what's
be.
about this permission thing all the time?
Yeah, you should. Those are the wrong kind of people, and you
A wonderful discussion, great moderation, Poonam. And I haven't read your book as yet, Anita, but I am definitely going to. I wanted to understand from you further. Could you just talk about the imposter syndrome? Because that is so important, and even if you're in an all-women's environment, too often one feels a lack of self-belief. It's not even a lack of self-esteem. It's all there. Even then, one has to struggle with the imposter syndrome, and more so of late. So, would you like to care to comment on that?
Yeah, so let me talk about, self-doubt. Everybody has it, and let me give you my own kind of example of, how it has worked. So my husband and I give talks, motivational talks to companies about learning from sport. Yeah, and we've done it for 20 years. So we kind of have a ritual where we go back to the room and then we say, oh, how did it go? And invariably, like 90% of the time, my husband says, oh, it went off really well. Did you see how attentive they were? Yeah, they were laughing at this. This story really worked. And I would fuss around and say, but we forgot to say this. We were going to tell this story. Yeah, things like that. And then he would turn around and say, but other than you and me, who knew? The audience definitely didn't know, right? So you shouldn't be hard on yourself, and you shouldn't have this kind of a thing. We are very hard on ourselves, and we have this self-doubt about saying, was it good enough? Was I good enough? Am I up to it? And I find that a lot of people have this thing. Yeah. So I've talked about some people in the book as well. But let me tell you about this interesting experience I had. After I wrote the book, I got a message from a girl who said she wanted to reach out to me. And I didn't know her, and she has a IIT, IIM background and has a startup. Okay, so I thought maybe it's like work related. So she kind of set up a call, and then she started telling me about, her work and things like that. And then she came to the book and she said, I read your book. Started telling me about herself. So they were two sisters just like us and grew up in a government colony. But she said her father was very supportive, is the word she used. She said, the parents said, don't appear for the CET in the first year. Just appear for the JEE, which is the IIT exam. Okay, if you don't get in there, then you apply for the CET. Okay, so aimed really high. Then she started telling me we grew up in this government colony and we used to play with the boys, and there was no difference and whatever. The father even taught both the daughters to ride motorcycles. And I said, this is getting better and better. Because a lot of times I find, like I said, parents are very supportive but not ambitious. So I said, these are like perfect parents. And she was a young girl. Things are getting better. And then she threw the bomb. She said to me, in spite of all this, you talked about limiting behaviors, which is like, not networking or not having self-belief and things like that. And I ticked all those boxes. So will you help me understand why? And then she told me that, she has a startup and she tried for funding, and you'd appreciate this. And she said, I wrote about myself and my credentials in point 7. And then they laughed and they said, that you got such great credentials, not only academic, but at work as well. And you put it at number 7. Because, we back the team, the promoter, like whoever is this. And she had put it in number 7th. So she says, I don't know why this kind of behavior, and I totally understood what you had written in the book. So this is the kind of thing that is there, but you have to work on it. So for example, when we wrote the first book, You know, I thought, my husband's so well known. Everybody knows his face, everybody knows his name, everybody knows his writing, everybody knows his voice. And then, you know, who will give me any bhav? And I've written, that was my first experience. And the publishers told us that you should put your photo on the cover, both of us. And we were like middle class Maharashtrians. So said, put our own photo on the book. And this was in 2011, you know. We said, no, we can't do this. Like, you know, it's like horrible. It's like these American shows, like, you know, where you clap for yourself. No, what la parents? What la parents say? You know, if they see our own photo on this. In those days, you know, nobody did that. And then the publisher said, no, trust us. That's the new trend globally. And we put the photo on the book, but it's helped me a lot. It's helped me a lot because people recognize you. So what I'm saying is this kind of self-belief or imposter syndrome, through somebody telling you, now, no, I think you've done a great job, and learn to accept the positive messages.
Next.
Hello. Good evening.
You've been nodding and smiling.
Because I can relate to each and everything that you have just said. And I am very fortunate to have a partner. I do think all the roles that you told, I am fitting into all the men role that you told, and my husband is fitting into the woman, the traditional woman role that you told. So
Except that you said you were fortunate.
I'm blessed today, somehow, because of him, surely. I have a question. We have definitely seen in workspace a kind of partiality when there are two candidates, one is woman, one is men, and then somehow the role goes to the men. When I go to that position, when I am in the deciding position, should I, like, it's a very tricky question, I must say, should I just give a little more extra points for just being the woman? Like, men have been getting the point.
Yeah, so currently the reverse is happening. Okay, currently the reverse is happening for the reason that companies have diversity targets. And there is a girl who has told a story in this where she says that typically when companies come to campus to interview people, they interview all the girls first. And if they don't find the right girl, then they interview the guys. Okay? But the catch in that is that all the guys turn around and say you are a diversity candidate, even if she has won it by merit. And that is something that the women don't want. So this thing about, you know, getting the numbers and yet being sensitive and being fair and meritocratic is a tricky one. We are not there yet.
That was actually a very good question. Can we have the next one, please?
Hello, ma'am. So my question is, when we talk about women at workplace, we have this classical conditioning of thinking only about the cisgendered women. And we still have a dearth of trans women in the workplace. So what are your views on it, and how we can make our workplaces more inclusive, considering trans people?
Yeah, frankly, I don't know. But I would suspect that they have the same challenges that any minority has. And when we say inclusion, it means that everybody, irrespective of who you are, must feel wanted and must feel included. So, like for women, I'm saying that every policy needs to be put through the gender lens, just to see whether, you know, it's right, not just because it's been going on for so many years. Now with so many other smaller groups coming in, you need to look at policy like that. Yeah, thanks.
You have a question?
So you talked about the importance of skill building in either kickstarting or restarting one's career. As a young female entrepreneur, venturing into the world of startups, which is predominantly male-sided, I would say, a lot of times we're looking to learn things which we otherwise might not have learned in our conventional educations or in our previous career paths. So we're very much there to learn, but there have been instances where we've been looked down upon by the male counterparts. So there's some sort of a friction when it comes to building oneself, skill building on ground, maybe in finance or sales, as you rightly said. So have you ever faced such issues, and how have you stood up for yourself and actually grabbed the opportunity to learn?
Not really, because I had younger partners, much younger partners, so I didn't have that kind of situation, so I haven't been through that. But again, thick skin, you just need to learn. You just need to learn. And that's the thing about, you know, going back and entrepreneurship and things like that. you have to invest in yourself and you have to have a learning mindset. If you come from the context that, I've had this great job before, I'm so and so, I'm married to so and so, I come from this rich family, that doesn't work. In an entrepreneurship role, particularly, you have to be absolutely bottom of the ladder and willing to learn whatever you can. Yeah. So learn from whoever and just hang on and learn.
So you had mentioned that women generally fall under guilt if they are not focusing more on their kids and are trying to focus on their career. But then there are also women who are really selfish in terms of the society. That is, they want to focus on their careers, they don't want to have kids.
Yeah.
So such women also are looked down upon by the society.
That's what I'm saying. Either way, you're like jammed. It's
Right.
a choice that you make.
Right.
It's a choice that you make. I'm not saying this choice is right or that choice. It's every person's.
Right.
Yeah. But there are consequences with every choice, and if you are okay with it, it's fine. I
Right.
think. Thicker skin.
So in today's trend, I see that women actually are being supported by men in this decision, but I'm not sure what was it like previously. So would you please tell us about that? How women have faced these women who wanted to focus more on their lives? How have they dealt with it?
No, so in our generation, there were a couple of different mindsets that were operating as far as marriage and family were concerned. Okay, so in my generation, we believed when we got into marriage that it was for keeps, that this is going to be the only marriage. Okay, it's not like there weren't divorces, but that was the mindset. Today's generation comes from the context saying, what if it doesn't work? Right in the beginning. My own son, I asked him that what do girls in your, generation and your batch and things like that think about this? Because in our generation, it was understood that the woman took the back seat. Right? So when many of his friends are married, so what do you think? And he said, what if the marriage doesn't work? And only one person has taken the back seat. Then she has no marriage and she has no career. So people are thinking differently, right? So those are the things you need to think about. Also, women were okay in our generation. I'm not saying it's right, but women were okay in our generation to say that, I have compromised, or that he couldn't have done it without my help, or he couldn't have done it without me. So they were clearly in supporting roles. They were willing to compromise. So it was understood and expected of them. Today's girls are not like that. They want their own startup. They want to be the founders. They want to do all this. Now, if you have to do that, then somewhere you're going to have to require more support, or the easier decision is not to have children at all. Ask her.
Oh God,
They don't support women with children.
I was
Most
just
people-
thinking there was this very funny thing. Every time I'm out for work, I'm told by everybody around me, you're so lucky your husband is taking care of the kid. And then I say, it's his kid also.
His kid also, yeah.
So stop telling me I got lucky. He also got lucky.
Correct.
That he has a mother, he has a working woman who is talented, outspoken,
I've written
you're
about-
recognized by my name. But at times, ma'am, it just frustrates me when somebody says, you got so lucky, Atul takes care of the
She
kid.
just said, she said,
We should stop
I'm very blessed.
saying that.
I'm
yeah.
very blessed. I'm very fortunate. I hope he's saying the same things.
Yeah, it has to be the both way, I believe. But then on a funny note, I believe, I tell people he is the parent as well.
Not a stand-in babysitter, like I said.
So I enjoyed listening to you very much.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask that this might come off as a personal question too. So I've always seeked approval from, my parents or my friends or my colleagues at this point. Like every time I do something, my parents used to say, okay, you've achieved this, but you could have done better. And that hurt me a lot on a personal level. So how do I get over, not needing or seeking people's approval, because that affects me personally a lot.
How to not seek
That is
validation?
also another typical behavior requiring validation from
Yeah,
everybody.
Exactly.
No, I think just do what you want, and when you do it well, pat yourself on the back.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Very
I don't know if this is covered in the book. Pardon me, I haven't read it. So we talked about privileges. I also wanted your take on gender-specific skills. Like they say, women are not good drivers, but they have a good EQ, right? Better than men. So does this really exist, or this is just something that is been conjured by our culture or our mindset as a society? Can you shed some light on this?
I think a little bit might be there, but not all of it. I think it's more to do with conditioning. Because you have so many men who are poor drivers, and you have so many women who are like poor multitaskers. So I think when we have women who are doing well, and people are looking at them seriously to kind of create any kind of stereotypes, then the basic stereotypes will vanish. I don't think we should give this. Even the multitasking is out of necessity. It's just being made out to be a skill. I don't think. What choice do women have? They have to multitask, right?
This question rooted prospect that we were talking about. Should you be taking care of your child? Because it is seen, I don't know if it is true or not, you guys let me know. Women are much better at taking care of kids in general.
Have enough men tried?
No. So that was my question. I am sure men haven't tried much because that has been a norm.
Yeah.
Let's give breaking stereotypes a choice, chance.
No.
That was a good one.
See,
average.
there is giving birth, there is breastfeeding, right? That the woman has to do. After that, you need to take the child for inoculation, you need to look after the child when it's not well, things like that. Why do you think paternity leave is being given? For the wife is supported also. Yes. And men are not taking it. Do you know that? Because they feel they will lose out on work. So that I'm saying is It is. And I know enough men who can look after the children just as well as the women can. So I think
about
they should be able to do that, yeah.
One last question.
So I've lately noticed that how we are brought up, because we are discussing equity, equality, how we are brought up, I've seen little girls carry purses and there's no gender neutrality. So how do you think, because the clothes that are available, the toys that are available are not gender neutral, and that is what is feeding into the system of patriarchy eventually. So how do you think, as a society, what needs to change, or what can we bring into our kids? Because there's so much available outside. Now I'm not going to make my girl wear a boy's clothes all the time.
These days you have gender neutral clothes. There are some brands that are absolutely gender neutral, which are like t-shirts and shorts and things like that both girls and boys can wear. So that's one.
Yeah.
Then the other thing is about signaling.
Okay.
And what are the aspirations that you create? Are you just telling the girls that, you need to look pretty? Or are you telling her things like you need to be strong and you need to be independent and you need to be confident? Those are the kind of aspirations that you must cultivate so that their behavior also changes.
Yeah.
And another important thing, because there are so many men and women here, I feel that, we have brought up our daughters to be like sons, and girls are doing all the things, or most of the things that men do. And that is seen as a step up. I don't think we are, taught our sons to be like daughters. And all the work that, for example, looking after children, cooking, or anything like that is seen as a step down. I think that needs to change.
Other thing is, just
we need to...
just last thing, this glorifying motherhood is just something that really bogs people down who are not into it.
I'm
it's the most
really
beautiful
sorry to be
thing.
interrupting you,
Yes.
but would you like to take that up after the session?
Sure.
She's
Yeah?
here.
One
That would
last
probably
thing
work
I just
out
want to
better.
say, which I wanted to say to him as well. Even women are guilty of this because they say, oh, you can't do it. I'm much better. So they like to believe that they do a better job, and that's not okay either. Yeah.
Excellent
Thanks.
points. Excellent
you.
points.
I'm glad we are talking about this. The more we talk, we take home something, mental awareness and women empowerment. I may be wrong in my vocabulary, but yeah, these two topics, the more we talk, it's always good. Over to you, Mayank. Thank you so much, ma'am.
The sheer volume of questions, thoughts that this whole session has provoked is something that I really am a little overwhelmed right now. But I think my main takeaway would be that walking in equality is all about acknowledging and appreciating our difference. The sheer volume of questions, thoughts that this whole session has provoked is something that I really am a little overwhelmed right now. But I think my main takeaway would be that walking in equality is all about acknowledging and appreciating our differences and nevertheless walking in equality, right? It has to be on a grassroots level and it has to be on every other level. I would like to thank everyone for asking such pertinent questions, and you've given all of us a lot to think about collectively. Moving forward, I'd actually like to quote Jason Pollock, who has once said that it doesn't matter how the paint is put on as long as something is said. We have here the very talented Arya Ashtekar, a 12th standard student and a painter with the Alag Angle community, who is going to say her piece with a very beautiful and a unique painting. I would like to invite Arya and our VLF volunteer Faizan to present this thoughtful token to our author. This painting was conceptualized and made especially for our author. Wow, amazing. I now request our very own energy source and our omnipresent VLF secretary, Mr. Sachin Jahagirdar, to address our readers with a closing remark and the vote of thanks. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause.
Thank you, Mayank. And I'm here to propose a formal vote of thanks. But before that, I'm going to make an announcement for which you're going to thank me. So the VLF main festival is scheduled on 4th and 5th of February 23. And please mark your calendars. I want every one of you to attend. And but the story doesn't end here. We need huge support from all of you in terms of volunteering, in terms of finances, of course, in terms of recommendations for the authors that you want to see at the main festival. So keep reaching out to us in whichever way you can help us contribute. That will be very helpful for all of us at the VLF to put it up all together for you, because ultimately it's about you all readers. What you want to hear and meet your authors. That's what we are here for. To put up this huge grand finale for you in 23, we're very fortunate to have a few sponsors. Can we have the slide of the sponsors? We have Vishwaraj, we have Calderis, we have SMS Group as our sponsors. A couple of more sponsors have also joined the bandwagon. I'm not in a position to share the details as yet. Maybe in the next month's session, we'll definitely share about them. But as I said that there's the festival in February, but these run-up events will still continue. So the next one that's happening in the month of October is on 29th of October. And the author is Shri Prakash Singh. He's a former director of BSF, former police chief, DGP of Uttar Pradesh as well as Assam. He's also recipient of Padma Shri. And a very interesting coincidence I would like to share. His son, Pankaj Singh, is also an IPS officer, and he's currently the Director General of BSF. And while I was sharing this with Anita, she told me that Harsha is going to speak to the BSF in just a couple of days from now. Another coincidence is that Pankaj Singh is Anita's batchmate. He's also alumnus of IMA. And I just told her, you must tell Harsha that, his father is joining us on 29th of October. So don't miss out on this session by Mr. Prakash Singh. He's 86 years old and fit as a fiddle. And I thought, I was, very, very skeptical to speak to him, but his energy was, absolutely unbelievable. So look forward to all of you for joining this session. Apart from the sponsors that we have, we are also very fortunate to have an excellent team of partners like Alag Angle you just saw, AD's Photography, SAR Digital, The Refuge, Crossword. So Crossword has been with us and they have been very generous in extending discounts. So today also I'm very glad to share that The book has 50 rupees discount from Crossword, 100 rupees from VLF, which makes it 250 rupees to buy this book. And I want all of you to pick up all the copies so that I can thank you on 20th October. So thank you for joining in, and please chat with the author here. Thanks a lot.